I have made so many mistakes when it comes to hiring, onboarding, and training people to my company. We have talked about this before on the podcast, but because we are headed into 2024, and I guarantee you, you have some brand new goals for your business, which making money, scaling, and all that, then more than likely in 2024, you are going to have to hire someone or some people. And so today, I kind of want to tell you like some of the things that we did right and did wrong when it comes to onboarding, hiring, onboarding, and training people, and then some of the things we did right. So welcome back to another episode of the Kia Kelly podcast, where I'm teaching you about all things building a business, marketing your business, and then having a balanced life in the process of doing so. So right now you are listening to this or you're watching this on YouTube, and I am actually out. I'm actually healing from a surgery that I had on November 27th. So if you're hearing this or watching this, be sure to say a prayer for me because I am on the healing journey at this point. But today we're talking about, hiring, onboarding, training, and all those different things. So you know that anytime I am sharing, I am always telling you the truth. I never sugarcoat anything. I don't gatekeep. I like you to know all the things, and today is no different. In the intro, I talked about how I have made a lot of mistakes when it comes to growing my business and doing all the things, and I'm going to talk to you about those things, but I'm also going to tell you the things that we did right. So for the first thing, like when I knew that I wanted to grow my business, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to hire for. I actually had a full-time graphic designer before I ever had an assistant, because I saw great value in having someone do my graphics for me because I couldn't do them and I needed them on a regular basis. But I ended up having a conversation with someone who runs a multi-million-dollar business. And he asked me, he said, well, Kenya, do you have an assistant? And I said, no. And he said, well, the first person you actually need to hire is an assistant, because you need someone to help you, because your company can only go as far as you, because you only have so many hours in a day. And he asked me, how many hours do you work in a day? And I was like, I'm working a lot. He was like, exactly. So if you're going to be able to take your company to the next level, you have to be able to offload a lot of the things that you're already doing and give it to somebody else. And I said, okay. So then I said, well, what do I hire this person to do? And he said, well, you want to make a list of all the things that you don't enjoy doing. And I was like, well, that sounds like a miserable job. And he said, well, it's not about it being miserable. It's about finding a person that finds enjoyment in doing all of those things. He said, because there is someone that is willing to do those things and is good at doing those things, because that's what you need help with. He was like, you cannot necessarily create a position just to make somebody feel good. You create a position because it's going to offload you and free you up so you can do all the things. And so once I got beyond my feelings, I made a list and I said, okay, here's all the things that I am doing. I made like a dump list. And then I was like, I did check marks of here's the things I do not enjoy doing. It was a lot of things that I don't enjoy doing. And then he said, okay, so then you got to create a job description. And I asked one of my mentors, like, if she had a sample job description for an assistant. And she sent me her sample job description. And then I revised it to fit my company, my needs, and, all the things I was going to have them do. And here's where I started to make the mistakes. So I feel like I had good intentions of, I wanted to bring someone on to do all these things, but I didn't really think about like a bunch of the questions I should be asking the people that are applying, or, ways to see like test projects. And there was so much stuff that I didn't know to do. So what I did was I went on to upwork.com, which I love that website. I went onto that website. I posted a job for a virtual assistant. And I didn't know what to pay. So initially I was like, well, whatever they're recommending, their range, that's what I'll put there. And I had a lot of people apply for the position. I mean, a lot of people apply for this position. And initially for me, I was overwhelmed because I was just like, look at all these people. Like, I don't even know what to do, because I was already overwhelmed with my own self, and then to have to do all that was just a lot. But I had no choice. So I started going through this process of interviewing people, and I kept like hitting this roadblock of interviewing folks and realizing that they weren't exactly what I was looking for, or I wasn't asking all the right questions. So for example, I had hired probably 3 or 4 people at like different times. And they all seemed good at a bunch of different things, but some things I didn't even know to ask them. And, one was, are you used to working USA hours? Because I wanted someone to work on my time zone. I wasn't asking them, how is your Wi-Fi? How is your computer? I wasn't asking them, what is their home life like? Because if they work from home, they've got to be in an environment where they can work. I wasn't asking them about their personality, their strengths and weaknesses. It was just so much that I was not asking them. And I found myself like over like 6 months hiring and then them quitting. Like some people would start working for me for like an hour, 2 hours, and would quit immediately. And I was just like, what is going on? And one of the biggest things was I was hiring overseas, and all these people wanted the job, but they weren't used to actually working USA hours. And so when they had to report to work at 9 a.m., it was like 1 a.m. their time, and they just, went away. It was just like, whatever. Then when it came to actually being someone's assistant, what I started to experience was there was a lot of people who were used to doing tasks, but weren't used to actually being someone's assistant or their right hand. And so when I really wanted them to think and think strategically, they just didn't have those skills. And I was so frustrated with being like, well, I said, maybe they have a different expectation of or definition of executive assistant versus what I think it is, But then one of the bigger challenges that we had once we actually found someone is I didn't really have an onboarding process. Like I didn't have a strategy or a plan of what was going to happen day 1, day 2, day 3. I had nothing. And so I would just offload all this stuff onto people, and it would overwhelm them, right? I had times when I was in a huge launch of a product and I brought on an assistant, and it was way too intense, because it was an intense time for us because we're in a big sales process. It's not the right time to bring on an assistant because I didn't have time to actually spend with them, walking them through like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And so then they would quit. And, and I'm frustrated. So of course my attitude was just not helping. Okay. But, so that kind of happened there. But then what started to happen was I started to realize that while I had some systems and I had some processes in place, that one of the things I needed to do was to slow walk people. Okay. And what the slow walk process looks like is we started to go, okay, we're going to temporarily hire you for 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, we want to see what are you able to get done? And I would give them one task and see what would happen in that one task. Many people didn't make it past the first day because they just were not working. They were whatever was going on, and then some people didn't make it past the first week because they realized, hey, you really are going to have to work because this is my first time having an assistant, and we are creating systems and process. We're creating all these different things for the company, But then once I got the right person, I said to them, okay, and this is my current assistant. I said, all right, I've made a lot of mistakes in hiring in this position. You are very skilled. And no, hold on. Before her, when I met her, I said, all right, what I want to do is I want to give you a task. And I said, I want you to take this video. I will create, like for an assistant, I will create a video of me talking about a product or process that we have and what we sell. And I want you to take this video, I want you to transcribe it and turn it into a standard operating procedure. And then let me see what you come up with in 2 hours. I pay you for it, but I want to see what happens in 2 hours. And so when I did that, she was perfect. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so from there, I said, okay, so instead of giving you all the things that I need help with as an assistant, I am just going to give you a ton of videos of me coming up with processes. And I want you to turn all of those videos into a standard operating procedures. And that's your first task. And so while she was focusing on that her first week, I was then working on all the other things that I needed her to do. Okay. And what that did was that helped my new assistant from being so overwhelmed with so much stuff, because I was able to slow walk her there. So for you, when you're thinking about hiring someone, it's really important to not just think about the role that you're hiring someone for, but you actually have to consider the process. You have to consider, like, when people are applying for the job, do they have enough information to make a decision to want to interview with you? Okay. Then you have to go, okay, if you're using a site like Upwork, what are some questions you can put in that profile that pre-qualifies them? Because a lot of times people will just hit apply, but they're not actually reading the full job description. And so instead of you having to read through all these applications, you can have something that says, to acknowledge that you read this full thing, send me a message with this particular word. If they did not type this particular word, then you can reply and say, hey, I see that you applied, but you didn't read the job description, because there's an action you need to take. Please go and read the description and take an action. Right? And then the right people would come back and take the action. Then I would say, okay, here's some initial questions I have for you. And I had like a series of questions that I wanted them to answer. And then they started answering those series of questions. And so before I had all these interviews, I was just like weeding people out through that whole process. And then once they got beyond the questions, then we would bring them on a Zoom interview. And it would be a whole lot less people by that time. Okay. And what would usually happen is, as I'm narrowing things down, I could see different skills that I didn't really put in what I wanted that person to do in that job. And then I would add that to the job description, like the internal description. So that way, once we hired someone, we got them to do all those things. Okay. Which made things a whole lot easier. Okay. So then once we actually chose the person, then we had to make sure that we take them through a process. 1, an offer letter, sign the offer letter. 2, a non-disclosure agreement, and then all the different things that they need to sign before they ever come on board. Like, they're like how they're going to get paid. Like, we use Gusto as a software to pay people. And so it was like, okay, like, getting them through that, setting up their company email and getting all those little things kind of done so that when they actually started, we could start them into work. Then what we had to do before they started is, what are they going to be focusing on week 1, week 2, and week 3? Now, when we first got started, we had none of that because we didn't know. It was so new to all of what we were doing, right? So like right now, we just officially hired a social media manager, and we've been trying to hire for this for a couple of years now. And so there's a lot of systems that are not in place, but there's a lot of processes and systems that are in place. And so when we brought this person on, it was like, okay, here is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, right? But also you are going to be helping us with this social media process, this marketing process, because we've never had it before. And so we set the expectation of that this week you're going to focus on learning. Next week you're going to focus on learning. The week after you're going to actually start putting things in play. But the entire time while you are learning, we want you coming up with new marketing processes for, here's what we do on a regular basis. What process can we put in place to make this easier? Right? And what that is doing is that setting that person up the expectations of, you're not just doing a task. You're not just going to post and comment. You're actually being the part of the marketing team. All right. And so it set the expectations, from the get-go on everything. It helped the person know that you're not expected to make $1 million this month or next month, but you are expected at this point in time to actually start and helping us to generate revenue. So it's important for you to start looking from that perspective today versus looking at it, when that time comes, but ultimately, it's also important that you are continuously easing your new hire's mind. because I always tell people that when someone starts working for a company, that their level of excitement is really high, but their level of anxiety is even higher because they just got the job. They don't know what to expect. They worked a previous job before, whatever that was like. They just don't know what to expect. And when people meet me online, they see me as a strong woman, and so they expect that I'm just going to be like a dictator type whatever. And so I have to go in and say, hey, this is who I am. This is what we do, but we're human. And I just set the expectations of I'm not going to be mean to you. I'm your boss and all that, but here is how we do what it is that we do. And here's how I will handle you and manage you, yada, 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 yada. Right. So it's helping bringing down the anxiety that a new hire has, because everybody, when they first get hired on something, just has anxiety. It's just is what it is. And so I'm constantly just reassuring. Right. So like today we were onboarding our new social media manager, and I was just really talking them through, the whole process of things. And we were supposed to get together at 12 noon to go over all the questions that they have. And right around like 11:30, I said, okay, I'm checking in. How's everything going? They said what they said. And I said, okay, are you going to be done by 12 or should we do it at 12:30? They said, oh, we can do it now or later. And I said, okay, you keep going and we'll get on a Zoom call at 12:30. What did that do? That continuously set more expectations of, okay, checking in, making sure everything's good, not micromanaging you, keep going. And then at 12:30, we're going to review all the things that we talked about. It's just allowing that person to flow, right? Like, because I don't like to be micromanaged and I don't like to micromanage people, but I do keep people with expectations and a schedule or whatever. But especially when you've got this work from home environment where you're at home, they're at home, whatever country that they're in, you want to keep those lines of communication open where they know you're the boss, but they don't fear talking to you, right? So like I have this thing where I tell everybody, if you have a question, you're brand new, don't come to me 100 times a day with 100 questions. Come to me 3 times a day with 100 questions. Because if you come to me 3 times, I can give you the answers to all of that right then and there. Otherwise, if you keep nudging me every 5 minutes, you got a question, I'm going to get annoyed and frustrated because I'm trying to work on all the things that I'm working on, right? And so the expectation is do this, and this, make a long list of questions, boom, send me all of that. And listen, here's one thing that we've had when we've hired people. This was one of the ways that we knew a social media manager was right or wrong, or a team member was right or wrong. I know that what we do is easy for me because I've been doing it. I own the business. But a new person coming in should know anything, and they should have a lot of questions. So if we give somebody a video to review and we're like, look at this video and then make a list of questions about what you need to know about that, especially a social media manager, you're like the marketing person. If I give them 3 videos, like 30-minute videos, and they come back to me with 3 questions, 10 questions, I'm like, no, it's not working. And why is that? Because our process is so intricate that we understand what we're doing, but as someone who is brand new should have no idea what is going on there. And they should have a lot of questions. And every person that we have had as a social media manager that we let go, it is because they were not being intentional and strategic. Because I already know the right person that really wants to do a good job, wants to help the company grow and be a good social media manager should have a lot of questions about our audience, our products, all the things that we do on the inside of the business and social media so they can learn how it is we do what we do. And so we've been able to gauge that, right? Now, we don't say, oh, you didn't ask me 100 questions, you're fired. No, we didn't do that. But I would say, hey, I don't understand. This is a very complicated process that I gave you a video on. How do you only have 3 questions? And then another person, I had them on an hour meeting. They were in on a meeting with me and all of my clients. And at the end of the call, I said, what did you learn from that call? They only learned 2 things. And it was the first 2 things I said in the video. And I said, there is no way that you only learned 2 things from me in that 1 hour when I answered all these people's different questions that told me something is off. And I was like, I don't know what's happening in your house. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you're not focused, but you're not fully here. And so we can't continue working together if you're not here because you're going to expect me to pay you at the end of the week what I promised to pay, and I'm expecting you to work, but you're not working, and I can tell because you're not asking me any questions, and then you're not attentive in the meetings I'm inviting you to be attentive to. And the person was like, you're right. And I was like, yeah, I know. So I wasn't mean about it, but but my point in saying that is that if you're going to have success with hiring people into your company, right? A social media manager, graphic design, whatever it is you're hiring for. If you're going to have success with hiring, you have got to create some level of like, here is our process of hiring, onboarding, training, comforting, all that type of stuff. So that way you have the greatest success with this journey. And then your new hire does as well. Okay. So if you have specific questions about this and you're watching on YouTube, feel free to ask me in the comments. If you like the video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe to the channel. For those that are listening on the podcast, come onto the YouTube channel at Key and Kelly on YouTube, find this video that's posted today, and go ahead and ask me some questions in the comments. I would love to help you if you're in the hiring process. Okay. But also, if you are looking for strategies to be able to grow your business, market your business, I would love to work with you. I would love to do all the things to help you with that. You can work with me one-on-one. There is a link in the show notes, keyandkelly.com/laser coaching. And then of course we have digital courses, but let me know what you need help with, and we can determine if it's a course that we have, it's a community that we have, or if it's working together one-on-one. Okay. So thank you so much for watching and listening.